I don't know what terminology to use. It's really about goals. Um, Goals and changing your process or system. So, this is going to once again relate back to discipline and patience and all that stuff, because that just seems to be the theme of the past couple of months that I keep going back to, which again is a strong sign that things need to change and I need to make some changes. And I have been making some changes, not quick enough for my own personal enjoyment or satisfaction or criticisms or whatever, but I'm getting there. So, I really want to make a differentiation between these goals that are like definite concrete goals and then changing your process and the way you do things. Obviously, they're very related because you need to change your process in order to get to an end goal. But I kind of want to talk about this stuff because, again, it is something I have strong feelings about, and I believe that they work and that they're good and of value, even if I'm not exemplifying them myself. So, one thing that I just never have really been into, which is, depending on how you feel about it, a good or bad thing, is having these strong, definite goals. Like, I want to weigh this much, or I want to lose this many pounds. Weight loss goals or whatever. I, more so at a certain point, decided I want to be healthier, and I would like to consume less sugar, or consume less carbs, or eat more fruits and vegetables, right? I would like to have a better diet. To me, that is like a more attainable goal that, even though it doesn't have like a numerical value with either calories or like how much of something I'm eating, in like I want to eat an apple every day. Like, even that is way more attainable than saying like I want to weigh this much in this numerical like system, I guess, or I can't think of words. But without having to give yourself a very specific goal. Even an apple a day, I mean, that, like, again, that has a value of 1 apple per day. That's a little more manageable than, I think, an end goal of this weight by this time. And then what are you going to do to get there? And then you think about the process of that, right? Which is not a bad thing at all. Again, you need to think about the process in order to end up at an end goal. But then once you get to the end goal, it's not the end because you set a new goal, right? And I think that focusing more on process gives you, I think it's less pressure, but you have to couple that with discipline, because maybe the reason that I like it so much is because there's no pressure, it's less pressure, there's way less feeling of failure, even though I did talk about, and we'll link at the end of this video, how shaming yourself might be a useful tool, depending on who you are and how you operate. It might be a useful tool to make some changes. But let's just say it's not, because I mean that could obviously be very negative for your mental health and whatever else. So if it's not the route to go, then maybe this is something that would make sense to you, to not have an end goal that you could definitively say you failed. You did not reach your goal weight by this much, therefore you failed, or you didn't get this grade that you wanted, therefore you failed. But if you focus on the process, you take stock of, this is where I am right now, and I want to be somewhere over here. But over here doesn't have a number. It just is, I mean, sometimes you need that. Obviously, like if you wanted to get into university, you'd say, I need to have my grade average over this thing. It needs to be over this number. It's just, that's the way it is. Their grades are based on, either a letter system or a numerical system. And so we just have to play that game, right? That's just the way things are sometimes. You still go and figure out the process. What can I do to get better? And getting better would lead to, the marks I want to achieve or whatever. But I still think as often as possible we should focus on process. Focus on what the process would be. And not worry about that end, the super definitive, specific, like, goal. I mean, we don't even have to make that. That's the thing. I just, when I think about being healthier, I know that there's certain steps I can take to get there. And I've taken some of those steps and then failed or whatever. And I call it a failure because I don't notice a difference in myself. There's other things I do notice a difference in. My diet has fluctuated so much. There was a time where I felt like lighter, I felt better, I felt like I was losing weight. I knew what I was doing in that time for my diet, or for my diet to affect me that way. And that part has nothing to do with how much physical exercise I do. that just has to do with a thing with like a healthier diet. You want to add exercise to the mix, of course, that's great. I mean, I've talked about it in my vlog recently that having a lot of exercise in my life doesn't do anything for my weight necessarily at all. I find that I'm building a lot of muscle in some areas due to biking, and muscle weighs more than fat. So if I really went to the scale, that's not a good judge of my health. Because along with biking and doing all this cardio work, my heart is healthier than it was before. My endurance and stamina and other things have increased in the past couple months versus, off season, if you want to call it that, when I wasn't doing as much physical exercise, not even close to it, not biking, not doing other things that I could have been doing. My diet still affects my overall health, just like exercise will. I don't notice much of a difference because my diet is so horrible that it is like, I don't feel like I'm gaining weight. I feel like, or losing fat or whatever. Like I don't feel like I'm gaining a lot of fat. I really don't feel like I'm losing any either. I feel the muscle I've gained. I can feel the difference when I'm doing an activity as to how much stamina or endurance I have doing that activity. As for how I look, I feel the same. For the way that I feel in my body, I feel the same, unless I'm in the middle of an activity, and then, like I said, I can feel my muscles, like, I feel the ease of doing some things that I couldn't do before or didn't feel the ease of before. They were a struggle before, just because I have been on my bike more and doing certain things more. Anyway, I don't know why I went into such specifics. The point is, for this example anyway, if I were saying, well, the thing with the weight thing, there's so many things to take into consideration. Having a number at the end, I mean, that's like for people who work out, depending on the type of workouts you're doing, having a number, like a weight loss number goal, doesn't really make much sense if you are, let's say you're losing fat and increasing in muscle. I mean, like that's not, it's not, you just drop weight, period. Like at a certain point you will be losing weight and replacing that with more muscle in those areas and still losing more fat and whatever. Like I understand why some people would want to do that. I don't want to get too technical about stuff, especially because I don't know what I'm talking about half the time, so that's great. But I just think working on the process is better. So there's things that I thought of before that were like, okay, for a while I just didn't drink soda for like a year. I just didn't do it. I should have kept that up, because that's not like this, it's just like, sometimes it's easier for me to just like quit, just like boom, I'm not doing that thing anymore, cold turkey, zero, because trying to find a balance with things sometimes for me is very difficult. So I didn't do that. I didn't really notice a lot of differences in my life. So I probably did, my body probably was like, oh, thank you so much. But I didn't feel a lot because, I mean, I really wanted to keep the momentum up and add more things to do and or not do with my diet, and that would have been more process-based and great. I want to move to the art side of things and talk about some examples, because one of those things is like writing. Some people have goals with writing, like I need to write 2,500 words a day or something like that, and that helps them. Again, it's not like, to me, a goal like that, the differentiation between these two things, like having an end goal and reaching that versus having a process goal, you need the process goals sometimes to end up at the end. You need to identify what the process is. But the thing is that when you reach that end goal, then what? And if you don't reach it, then what? Do you feel discouraged? The thing about having a process goal is that the point is to continue playing the game, whatever that is. Because you could have like sports goals and stuff like that that are like, okay, you win a championship or something, or you win the game, or you get the most points, or you're the MVP or whatever. There's a lot of process and system stuff that you need to figure out in order to get there. But when you get there, it's like, okay, let's just do it again next year. And then again, you need to do things as much as you can within your control to do that. Generally, we're talking about, individual goals, things that you're really in control of for the most part. But there's a lot of things you're not in control of. So, I mean, again, process goals just seem to be a better fit with positivity, I think, and just like not, because this goes with the growth mindset and stuff too, and things we talked about last time with, maybe not last time, but a couple conversations ago about learning and failing and what that means and growth, and like how it's not a failure if you keep going, right? But if you have a goal to win a championship, or if my goal is I want to lose 50 pounds by whatever this day is. Arbitrary numbers. September 10th, I want to be 50 pounds less than I am now. And I'm only 30 pounds less than I am now? What was the point of making that goal? Like, it's not a failure. I lost weight I wanted to lose. There might be a lot of, reasonable goals and all that stuff. Like, maybe it wasn't even achievable because of just biology, because of time, because of factors outside of your control, where you wanted to do things that you just couldn't do because emergencies or whatever things called your attention elsewhere. Who knows? And there's reasons, and those reasons are different than excuses. But anyway, I just don't find a point, like, that experience of you, if you're going to say losing those 30 pounds, if you did it in a healthy way, would be a positive experience. But because you made it a 50-pound goal, well, all of a sudden you're thinking of it as a loss. Or you could potentially think about it as like, no, I failed here. I'm 20 pounds short of my thing, like, of my goal. But if you had just said, I want to make some positive changes in my life, and you left it at the process goal stage, then it's just like, okay, well, this positive change I want to make is, okay, consuming less sugar, right? Like, I'm just not going to drink pop anymore, or maybe, like, you make rules for yourself or whatever, like, I'm only going to drink pop when I go to a restaurant. I'm not going to bring it home, or, like, certain times that I'm going to eat, or I'm going to stop eating. It's certain, like, there's just certain things that I think you can do that stay within the pocket of the process, and you could just keep changing your process and continue that for the rest of your life without ever having a numerical value attached to a goal, and saying, like, no, I want to be the best whatever, and that means, like, or being the valedictorian or whatever. It's like, hey, but you might get there. Like, that might happen, but it'll happen because you're focused on the process. If you just have that goal and you don't achieve it, what do you do with that information that you didn't achieve it? Because then you have another hurdle to get over of being like, well, what do I do with this? Can I just tell myself that it's okay and I did really awesome? Am I really going to buy that? Like, but if you start if you start your goal process or your goal making or whatever system is just focusing only on process and doing what you can do in those moments and building on that and adjusting it and doing whatever without an end time necessarily, without a number attached, I find that to be way more appealing, and I think it would be more useful and of value and not, I don't know, everyone, that's the thing, everyone works differently. To me, when I think of this like rationally and logically, I just feel better about it, and I think most people can get on board with that. But some people might say, no, I need to write 200 or 2,500 words a day. I have to. That's my thing. And they do it, and because of that, they are a better writer. That to me almost still is a process thing in a way, because, okay, you didn't even say what you're writing. You didn't say you needed to have it done by a certain time. It's just like the end of the day, right? It's not about completing a certain even project. You don't know how long the project is. Like, you didn't break it down necessarily by like, okay, well, the project is this meant 10,000 words, and so I've got 4 days to do it or whatever. Like, no. For me, I just want to say, like, I just need to write every day. That is something I think I need. I'm going to start doing that. How can I start doing that? And then there's new goals involved, and some of them do have times and numerical value and whatever. I'm really trying to make this differentiation, and I think it's hard. I keep getting roped back into numbers and stuff because there's little things along the way. Like, okay, well, I need to be ready for bed by 9 o'clock. If I do that, then I have time to write. Having the time doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but if I don't give myself the time, then I definitely can't do it. So giving myself opportunity, but sometimes there is something attached to that, like getting everything done by this time in order to free up this stuff. There's just certain things in place in the system that we live in that need to be addressed and need to be handled, and playing the game of that. But I think focusing on process goals, that's the whole point, is to continue playing the game of life, continue with a growth mindset, rather than I achieved this goal or I didn't achieve this goal, now what? On to the next thing. Like, you can still continue and have new goals or new ideas and new things you want to work on with more like process or system oriented goal making rather than like outcome goal making, if I label them as that. So some things for me, like I mentioned, the writing thing is a real example. The diet thing is a real example. I mean, the writing thing pertains to just art making in general for me. Trying to make these reasonable goals, for me, the reason I'm not doing them is not because they're not reasonable, it's because of my lack of discipline. So that's a whole other issue. But I mean, I still find value in thinking about goals in this manner without as much baggage attached, because you don't, like, it's almost like evaluating on a daily basis. If you have an end goal, let's say even just a 1 month long goal of getting to some numerical value by the end of it, I don't think you're going to remember every day that month and what happened as to why you achieved that goal or why you couldn't achieve that goal if you fell short. And so all you're going to think about is, I didn't achieve the goal. Whereas if you just maybe reflected every day, like, hey, I did this today. Positive, optimistic, totally not me, but like cup half full, like, this is what I did today. That's productive. It's not about what I didn't get done today, because I didn't have a certain goal other than I need to do this thing a little bit today at least. And you did that, and then you stacked that, and you did it the next day, and you did it some more the next day. Sometimes you did 10, let's say you only wrote 10 words, but then the next day you wrote 100 words, and then it fluctuates up and down and whatever. And you wrote 1,000 words one day and only 10 the next, but I mean, you still did something, whatever was manageable that day. And at the end of that month, you can say, I ended up with this much stuff because of everything I did every single day, and I reflected on those days. And maybe you can say, this is how I could probably get more words in. I realized that I didn't manage my time very well today, whatever. Rather than at the very end being like, oh, I didn't finish the thing that I wanted to do, and having to deal with that. Obviously, you can do both. You can reflect daily on where you're at and how you've achieved goals or didn't achieve goals by the end of the month, or even if you have daily goals or whatever. Again, this stuff works differently for everybody. Everyone has different things that they are drawn to naturally, but also, like, we've nurtured ourselves and other people have nurtured us into different systems and things that we feel we can relate to, that are things we are comfortable with. And, being uncomfortable and comfortable is a whole other topic. But there's just certain things we're inclined that just make things work better for us. This is one, again, where I just think logically and rationally, for me in my headspace right now, makes sense on a basis of objectivity of, wouldn't it feel better to just know you did good every day and actually have, not just twist things to say, like, I did my best today. No, like, you can actually have evidence of what you've done in that day. I'm not talking about false optimism and positivity, but actually reflecting on that and being like, oh, I have evidence that I did stuff today. I have this process goal, and like that, I am working on that. Like, that is doing really well for me. And then again, you adjust and change things forever. Lifelong learner, right? Like, it's not about just attaining this goal and then you got it, and then, I need to make a new goal now. Like, I'm really curious as to what other people's thoughts are on this, because I think this is an area for me that's still new, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Because even though I've thought about things in this process kind of goal-oriented thing for a while, I haven't really, I haven't really talked about it much. I haven't really tried it much. I've tried it here and there to varying degrees of success, but it's something I just, again, need to get more disciplined about. There's a lot of reasons as to why I'm not doing that right now, and part of it is because I haven't been focusing on me. I found that there's a period of time where I did so much growing within a couple of years of moving here, because I was very focused on myself in positive ways and negative ways, but I found a lot of positive outcomes with figuring out who I am because I was so focused on me. Anyway, that's what I think about goals right now. And process goals, or what, I don't know what I'm going to call this video, but final outcome goals versus like process goals and stuff like that. See you on another time.